it's supposed to feel.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucs with Jim and Donardo. I'm your host, Anthony Donardo. With me, of course, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, happy Monday.
What's going on? Happy Monday.
It's a mixed weekend, I feel. We gained an hour. The hour's already erased from my body. And I hate this weekend because now it's dark again and I'm sad.
So, like, it's always dark right now for me. Typically.
Well, actually, it's actually late for me now.
But it was a great weekend for me. Louisville beat Clemson. Yesterday, just got to chill all day. It's a good weekend. The hour thing doesn't bother me because I barely get any sleep as is, unless it's a weekend. So, I mean, I made it up yesterday. We're good.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. You know, like you gained an hour, but now like you have Starbucks 7 o'clock in the morning, and whatever I caught up on sleep with is now erased. Like I'm just back to being tired again. But again, like getting dark early just always bothers me. I hate it. I mean, we kind of joke about this, right? I tease you how warm it is here. You guys are like, oh, I haven't turned on the heat till November. And I'm like, oh, it's 85 degrees. I mean, yeah, that's one thing about being down here is like the heat and stuff. But like I enjoy summer. I don't enjoy winter. There's a thing to it. Like I do enjoy the heat. And then when it gets dark early, it just reminds me even further, of course, that like that's all in the past. It's done. It's wintertime now. And I'm sad.
I say I prefer like spring and fall over the summer.
And I get
Just
it
because
I know a lot of
summers
people do.
here, I mean, summers here are brutal. They're so humid, and it's like 95 degrees and humid every day during the summer. It's hard to go outside between like June and August.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't like that.
But at any rate, winter's here. We're done. We're cooked. But before we go any further, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds and in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props. Head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. So I was all MIA last week in MIA. It was kind of nice. Miami was fun. I went to Fort Lauderdale, had some Primantis twice, actually, on the way there and back. We weren't going to go on the way back. We ended up doing it because why not? Big Primanti Brothers guy, big cap and cheese when the egg guy. But yes, winter's here, says Florida man. But yeah, so you and Ryan held it down. Good show. Alex came on Wednesday. Good show. We actually have like some more pirate things to talk about, which is kind of nice. Like it's the offseason's here, some stuff to talk about. But again, like there's not a whole lot. And you had a nice little thing there in the spirit of the voting season. So I'll give you the floor here. What's today going to be about, Jim?
Well, you know what? I think before we even get to that, how about we talk about Jared Triolo?
Okay, yeah.
Let's lead off with that. I mean, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on it, but I feel like Jared Triolo didn't get a ton of love when he got that Gold Glove nomination. I think a lot of people were I'm not entirely sure why, but people were saying that he wasn't going to win. I think it was a topic on the point, and I think all four contestants said they don't expect Triolo to win.
Right.
And so I think it surprised a lot of people last night that he won. But I mean, when you break down the numbers on the finalists for that award, Jared Triolo deserved it among those three. So Yeah, shout out Jared Triolo. We've been tough on him, obviously, because of his bat, right? But the dude can field. Like you saw him any position you put him at, he was really good. The one time they plugged him in the outfield, ball finds him, he makes a diving catch. Like he's he's a really good glove to have as a kind of a utility infielder. And I think again that's where he's best suited. Like you don't want to give Jared Triolo 550 plate appearances, but like if you can use him as a defensive replacement. You can use him to plug a hole for a guy, on an off day. He can play a bunch of positions. He can play them really, really well. Give him 300 plate appearances in a year, and I think we probably look at him a lot different. Yeah, so well deserved award. Like I said he wasn't getting any love when he got nominated there, but um, I mean, you could make an argument he was a Gold Glove third baseman in his own right. And when you add in that he played a few other positions, yeah, well deserved.
Yeah. Well, you say third baseman, you could add he could have been a Gold Glove second baseman also. Like, I mean, those two positions were really good. You talk about the outfield. He went out there like one game and added a defensive run to his season total in that one game because that catch, more or less. And I felt, I mean, like obviously he didn't like add defensive runs to his totals by playing short, but I felt like shortstop he played very capable of. Like how you talk about the utility thing. This is why when we went into the season, we were hopeful that Leo Pagero was a thing, so that way it could slide Jared Triolo into that utility role and be this type of player. And like you're right, like you saw, like that's the role I hope he can carve out if the bat can play. So when you talk about like you're surprised that he won, well, all those years, Brian Hayes wasn't a Gold Glove third baseman because he simply couldn't hit. I mean, let's be real, he couldn't hit enough to be a Gold Glove winner at third base. It felt like, right? So like the one time he wins last year, he had, he hit well enough. Jared Triolo couldn't hit either. Like it just seemed like, okay, well, we're back to this, right? He just can't simply hit well enough to win a Gold Glove award as a utility guy. So he's probably not going to do it. And apparently Rawlings said, you know what? We're just kind of going to ignore that. Here's your award. So I think it's deserving defensively. I as well am kind of shocked that he won it. And like shout out to Alex Stump because I think I haven't fact checked this. I assume he's done a good enough job fact checking it. But Alex Stump said that as far as he can look back, this is the first time a Pirates player has won the award in his first full season. So, like, kudos to Jared Triolo for doing that.
Yeah. I think it was very well deserved. Winning in his first full season, that's quite an accomplishment. And I think your hypothesis about the hitting thing, I feel like that's not as true as it used to be. Like if rewind 10 years ago, yeah. But I think it's a little different now. I think Brian Hayes struggled to win that first Gold Glove, not necessarily because he couldn't hit, but because Nolan Arenado existed, right? And it's like, okay, there's this guy here who's been cemented. His name has been this award has been pre-filled out for a decade, right? Where it's Nolan Arenado's award. And so I think it just takes a while to just kind of chip away at Arenado, and it took Hayes a few years to do it. I don't think it was the bat that got Hayes the Gold Glove last year.
Okay.
I think it was just enough people finally realized, hey, Arenado's really good, but Hayes is better.
Yeah. I mean, that's all fair too. That's simply a good, valid point. And it was his throne to lose. Did Hayes do enough to make him lose it? There's maybe your argument, like you're talking about. I feel like there's other scenarios that you could bring up that point, but again, I think you also are true that it's not as prevalent as before too. But also, like the numbers are more out there for people to see. It's hard to disguise. It's like the good player wins it. Because you don't really have like defensive runs saved and out above average like you did 10 years ago. So, anyways, yeah. So Jared Triolo wins it, and again, kudos to him. He was the lone nominee, and he won it. So congratulations to him. Like I said, well deserved. Yeah,
This was a team that struggled mightily defensively, and he
for
was
sure.
one of the only ones who didn't.
Yep. And hopefully he can maybe carry it over and become that utility like back to back next year. We'll find out what his role is, but yeah.
All right.
All right.
Now, yeah, I mean it's election season, right? I think tomorrow is actually election day. So everybody's casting their votes, everybody's looking at polls. So I figured it would be fun to on Twitter yesterday, I put out a series of polls to just kind of pulse check everyone's approval ratings of some prominent Pirates front office people. And then for the players too, as well, some key players. I basically put out a poll for any player who's set to make over $2 million next year. And the reason why I did it was that way was because those are the players where, I think it's maybe more of an important decision, like whether you keep them or you let them go, or maybe you wait and see, because they can make more of an impact to your bottom line, which can then impact who you can go out there and acquire. So I used anybody making $2 million or more next year, and then prominent front office members. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation, Denardo,
Of course you
to
do.
share these results. So I'm excited for this. So we're gonna go through these. We're gonna talk about them. A few of these were very, very like you saw the results and it's like, yep, that makes sense. And then there were a couple that surprised me a little bit. But let's roll through here. So first off, this was by far the highest disapproval rating, the lowest approval rating of anyone we polled, and that's Bob Nutting, Pirates owner. He had a 2% approval rating, which honestly, I'm kind of shocked he got that to 2%. For the longest time, like the preliminary results on this poll was it was going to be 100% disapproved. But there were a few people who squeaked in there. He's got a 2% approval rating. 97% say disapprove. And 1% says they're not sure.
So I want to add on to this as well, like you're talking about. 492 people voted on this. So, like, who are the 9 people out there right now? It was like, you know, like Bob Nutting, yes, yeah, absolutely. That's kind of I'm shocked. Even if it's just 9 people out of the 500 or so, right? Like, I'm curious who those 9 are. Who are you? Come out. I want to find you. I want to talk to you.
I was surprised too. Yeah,
that's funny. It's just
like, I mean, this is clearly a sad, pathetic chart, right? Like, if this is you, you're not doing a good job. But I'm surprised 2% approved. That's where I'm at. So, but that's the first one there. Second one, Ben Cherington. Ben Cherington comes in with a 5% approval rating. 5%. That is lower than I thought it would be, because I feel like there are some people out there who are willing to give Ben kind of his time, and it seemed like this past year and not doing anything this past year may have hurt him, because I feel like that 5% is pretty low. 5% approval rating, 84% disapprove of Ben Cherington, and 11% say they're not sure.
I'm kind of with you a little bit low. Like this being the not sure at 11%. Like this makes sense that a lot more are like not sure than approve of them. That I can kind of get. But I'll say this: like I felt if this was an off season ago, it's probably more split down the line. It's probably like a 45-45-10. Because I think there was a lot of people like, like Ben Cherington's on the right path. He's doing the right thing. Like this is the year, like just chill, guys. Look what's here. And seeing what transpired this year has really turned off a lot of those people. And there's certainly people that still believe like he's doing a fine job. Like this was never going to be the year anyways. It's always going to be next year. Still look at the farm, still look what's out here, look at the pitching. But I do think, yeah, like I'm not really surprised that it's disproportionate. But yeah, 5% is pretty low. Maybe it was like around 10% that approved of him. That's what I would have
Yeah.
thought probably
I
about
mean,
that.
I get it. Like
Mhm.
none of us approve of Ben Sherrington. So,
Right.
if you're like-minded in any way, you're in the red there. So, all right, next up, Travis Williams, slightly above a lot more not sure's here too, because I get that a lot of people might not, what does he even do here, right? But 7% approval rating for Travis Williams, 66% disapprove, 27% not sure. This one, I understand the numbers here. I would say out of all of the front office people, and I mean we can clown on Travis Williams with the Instagram like the memes that he puts out there, that the content that he gives us when he opens his mouth is always kind of funny. But I'd like to actually redirect you to like what his job actually is, right? And I think his job is to make sure that when you come to the ballpark, you've got a good experience. And I think that's gotten better over the last few years. You look at what like has happened in the outfield concourse area. You've got amazing standing room only spaces. You've got, the cocktail tables out in left field. You've got the bar in left field. You got the bar in right field. The way that you get in and into the stadium now is so much better. Those new machines where you can just walk right through, you don't have to take out stuff, like it just moves quicker, right? Those are all things that Travis Williams is in charge of. So like I think he's sort of getting a bad rap here because he's just getting lumped in with the rest of the front office. But Travis Williams has nothing to do with the baseball. Nothing to do with the baseball. He's everything to do with everything else. The good part about going to Pirates games is what Travis Williams is in charge of. So, man, I don't know. I'm like, if you asked me this question, I didn't vote on any of these, but I am approving of Travis Williams' job right now.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say nothing to do with baseball. Like he's not making the day-to-day decisions and all that. Like as much as Ben Cherington is, I get that, but he's also the one that said, Ben Cherington, you're cool. We're good. Derek Shelton, we're good. I guess to me, what's telling on here is the amount that say not sure. And I think this just exemplifies what Travis Williams is. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So they're not sure. And that's what the problem is. Like the fact that 27% aren't sure is why I disapprove, because nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what you do. And uh that's kind of like the MO in this entire front office is they're just not existent. They're not around. They're no one to talk to. And then when they do, it's of course it's not to deal with Travis, but it's Ben giving his status quo tweets, and it's Travis talking about Instagrammable moments. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
get it.
sure because
I get it.
I don't know what you do. Now, what I will tell you and say this, everything you talk about with the ballpark, absolutely. I mean, it's already a tremendous stadium. He's done stuff to improve it, make it better. Adding the Pirates Hall of Fame in there as well. Like that's a huge thing also. So like that stuff he has done a phenomenal job with, I feel like. I think what people really matter and worry about and care about is the on-field stuff. He's in charge of a lot of that.
So I just don't think he's in charge of any of it. Like,
Okay.
and so that's where I'm at. But I get this poll, but I'm just saying I'm here to. I disagree with it. I disagree with this poll. So, all right. Next up, last person before we get to the players, but also manager Derek Shelton. This chart too, I think took a nosedive this year. I think a lot more people approved of Shelton before this season. And this season didn't do him any favors, but he's at a 10% approval rating. 78% disapprove of Derek Shelton. 12% still not sure. And I get that too. If you want to kind of wait until he's got maybe a better cast, I get it. But yeah, 10% approval rating for the Pirates manager heading into his 5th season. Wait.
Yeah. Like this, I totally get also. Like the not shores, he has that building excuse.
6th
Like-
season, my bad.
Right. But like Derek Shelton, he's been given a terrible hand. Like, what do you expect out of him? I'm not really sure. I can't really judge him. He hasn't had like a good enough roster to say, oh, okay, you are bad. He's had a bad roster and you are bad. So it's like, well, okay. And for the 10% of approval rate, I mean, how many burners does Neil have?
Every one of those is just Neil. That's funny. Neil just
That's all I want to
what
know.
it is. I mean, what about 400 to 500 people voted in these? So yeah,
So he's got about 50 burners.
40 to
Good to
50
know.
people voted yes. Yeah. Okay. But no,
Good
it's not
job,
looking good it's not really looking good for anybody in the Pirates front office. Like this was a rough showing for him. Derek Shelton was the highest approval rating at 10%.
Yeah, that's not good.
Between the owner, the GM, the president, and the manager. No one over 10%. All right, let's get into players. How about that? So I sorted the players by highest approval rating, and the one person who just the entire fan base can agree on pretty much that he's doing a good job is Brian Reynolds. So Brian Reynolds, 99% approval rating for Brian Reynolds, 1% disapprove of him. But this is the most green that you will see on one of these charts. A 99% approval rating is pretty impressive.
I'm shocked. And it's not because I think he shouldn't be approved, you know? It's just like 99% of Pirates Twitter agreed on something positive.
I know.
How? You know, like this just statistically speaking shouldn't be able to happen.
It's honestly it's like the exact opposite of Bob Nutting, really. It's like it's that flipped. So the fact that everybody was able to pretty much come together on those two people in either direction
Yeah.
is pretty neat.
But like I feel like I can make a better argument that you should be disapproving of Brian Reynolds than approving of Bob Nutting. And Nutting had 2%, you know, and Reynolds has 1. Not saying he should, right? But I'm saying like I feel like there's a better argument of the opposite here than Nutting. And again, he got 99%. So hey, like kudos to Brian Reynolds. Congratulations. You are doing a fantastic job. Just keep doing what you're doing, buddy.
Yeah, I think if I would have put Paul Skeens in the mix, he may have been the only one to possibly clear this number. But yeah, keep doing what you're doing, Brian Reynolds. People like it.
Just for reference, can you put out that poll today for Paul Skeens? I just want to see how it compares to Brian Reynolds. Like, could you imagine? Because again, like it's at 99%, 0.6 disapproved and 0.4 said not sure. I'm curious if anyone would say they don't approve of Paul Skeens. I just want to know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways,
yeah. All right, so next highest approved bucko, Mitch Keller. So we know that Doug doesn't have a ton of burners, but 89% approval rating for Mitch Keller. Only 3% disapprove of him. 8% of people are still not sure, but 89% approval rating. This was the second highest among, higher paid Pirates players.
I think this is the one I'm more shocked on than any. If this makes sense, I just felt like there's way more people out there that don't approve of Mitch Keller. That this, he should be better. He needs to be better. He's not pitching to that contract. I mean, you see this time and time again. We've seen all throughout the season. So at the end of the day, when you do this poll and 89% approval and 3% don't disapprove, 8% not sure. I mean, I get that. but only 3 disapprove of Mitch Keller. I'm shocked. I expected this to be much more 66-33.
Maybe the Mitch Keller haters are just a very loud minority, apparently, because yeah, for the most part, everybody approves of what Mitch Keller's doing.
I guess you did this 11 hours ago? So
Yeah.
at 8:30 at night?
7:30. I did it from 7:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Oh, okay. So maybe it just hasn't hit the 12-hour mark yet. I haven't refreshed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they were asleep. Maybe the hour threw them off or something. Like the Mitch Hater Club was all asleep Sunday night. But
They were up all
I'm
night Saturday.
floored
Yeah,
that
they were
it's
up
so
all
high.
night Saturday planning Mitch Keller hate tweets, and
Yes.
they missed this one. Yeah. No, but 89% Mitch Keller. So I agree. Like I thought I thought the disapproves would be higher, but I mean I think we all pretty much approve of what he's doing. Do we wish he could be better? Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism, but I don't think you can necessarily complain about what he's given you.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Bailey Falter. 75% approval rating for Bailey Falter. This is crazy because I think if we would have put out this poll, say April 4th, like let's say we would have fast forwarded or rewinded 6 months, this poll would be a lot of red. So hell of a job by Bailey Falter this year, just kind of changing the narrative, I guess. But yeah, 75% approval rating. Only 11% of people disapprove of Bailey Falter. 14% are not sure. But yeah, an impressive turnaround for Falter among the fan base.
Very much so. And shout out to Falter Muse. I still think about that account because who the hell makes a Bailey Falter account? And from day one, he was always tweeting at us. The Falter, I forget what it was now. The hashtag even going. Falter Boys, Falter Fan Club, something like that.
Falter fellas.
Falter Fellows. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I was like, man, who this kid is wasting his time. Like imagine if all us to make a Twitter account and then in 2 weeks this guy's gonna be DFA'd and your whole existence is gone. And he stuck through. And he's like, guys, I'm telling you, he's good. And what happened? Bailey Falter ends up being a decent pitcher, and most people approve of him now. So yeah, kudos to Bailey Falter. Kudos to Falter Muse.
Yeah. Hey, if you were early on the Bailey Falter train,
if you were
you
Ben
deserve some
Cherington
credit.
or that one guy on Twitter,
Yeah, you deserve some credit. Next up. Oh, this one was shocking to me. So Isaiah kiner-falefa, 59% approve, 12% disapprove, 29% of people not sure. I'm not sure what I'm more surprised about. One, that like 30% of people were honest with themselves enough to just not have an opinion on the guy after 50 games. Like I understand that thought process where it's like I've only seen him for 50 games. But like 29% of people not sure what they think about Isaiah kiner-falefa. That's just, I'm surprised people are being that open-minded about this whole process. But so that was surprising. But I mean, Isaiah kiner-falefa came over from the Blue Jays in that trade. He had a 60 weighted runs created plus. He hit 240. He slugged 322. Never got on base. He had a 0 WAR. Like the guy was bad after that trade, but 59% of people approve of Isaiah kiner-falefa right now. Only 12% disapprove. I didn't think that approve was going to be that high.
I think that's all absolutely fair, but let me spin it this way. You trade for Isaiah kiner-falefa. He has a 118 weighted runs created plus, 2.1 WAR. And over like his entire career, he's been a good baseball player. We talked about on the trade. Like this isn't like your primary candidate. This isn't the guy like, oh, I'm going to go after this guy. It's going to change the entire scene of this team and such. But like, he's a guy you want on a winning ball club. You make that deal, and I think Pirates fans most of the people really liked it. Really liked it if they didn't love it, right? And just 2 months later, 30% of the people aren't sure about him. So like you say, being honest, and I think that like think about that way. I mean, this was like a slam dunk trade acquisition this year. The guy plays all these positions all around the diamond, like just a really good get. This makes a ton of sense, and he's controllable, for an extra year. And 2 months later, you're not sure about the guy. So I think like the track record speaks of why he still has like a 60% approval rating, opposed to someone will maybe get here later. And I don't know the numbers aren't for him, but like historically, he's been a decent enough player that you still have faith in him. But again, it's kind of telling that after just 2 months, you're not sure.
Yeah. I think a good point in the comments. Like Nola says, he's also one of those guys where like he plays hard. He does the right things on the field. Like he's kind of a fundamentally sound guy. So like he does things I think that a lot of people appreciate and celebrate. So that could play a part too. But yeah, I was still a little surprised of how high this approval rating was based on how his 2 months went.
Yeah. No, that's a good point though too.
Yeah.
Like you even said to yourself, although it's different reasons, but you're like, give me 9 IKFs on this team.
That was before he stopped hitting.
I know.
But-
It's a
but yeah.
little different reasons. But again, like the mentality of it, everything, like this guy, he tries hard.
Yeah.
He does the right things.
Yeah. All right. Next up, this is when things start to get a little murky. And I would say out of everybody, this next one is the one where people are most just split on. And that's David Bednar. People don't know what to think about David Bednar. 35% of people approve of David Bednar right now. 41% disapprove. 24% are not sure. This one's this is about as split as it gets with all these guys. No one's he's kind of in no man's land right now, which makes sense after the season he had.
For sure. With the majority of the 3 is in the disapprovals.
Yeah, well, yeah, the disapprove definitely has the most, but no one has a majority. So
Yeah.
if you kind of look at it that like no category here cracked 50%. This is the first one where no one hit 50% of an answer. It was the most split.
So like when I looked at this, like I don't know I don't know. How am I going to vote on this? How am I going to say my approval? Because I don't approve of the season he had, but I certainly don't think that this is David Bednar going forward. Like they're not sure makes a lot of sense. I guess maybe I figured that'd be a little greater than what it was, because he's been a fantastic reliever and he had a terrible season. And as Nola said about the tryhards, I mean, we all know it's the Pittsburgh guy. But it seems like a lot of Pittsburghers are turning on him because he's the Pittsburgh guy. Like, well, he's only here because he's from Pittsburgh. They should move on from him. And I feel we've talked about this. I feel there's more in David Bednar. I don't think he's going to come back and have the same season. I think you pick up, you tender him that contract and you have him in the bullpen next year. But what if he's not? So I get it.
Yeah. I think I may fall in the not sure category here because like I believe in David Bednar's skills. But last year was not acceptable. So it's
Right.
like how much does track like am I that confident on his track record to say, you know what, next year David Bednar is going to be a dude? I don't know. Like I think, but yeah, the not sure here is kind of enticing for me just because like I'm kind of in wait and see mode. Like he's been really, 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 really good. Last year was terrible. Can he bounce back from that? That's the answer.
Yeah. And probably
no,
the fact that he didn't end the season strong.
Yeah.
Still makes you wonder.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Next up, another one where kind of split, but certainly more disapproves. And that's Brian Hayes. So 25% approval rating for Brian Hayes. 52% disapprove. 23% are not sure. So the disapproves take the majority. Disapproves slightly over half, with only a quarter of the people out there approving of Brian Hayes.
Can you disagree, like, really with this at all? Like, this makes sense. He can't be this. He can't be this guy. He's got to be better. And you see spurts of it. Like, you see what's in there. Yeah, I can't approve of what Brian has been so far.
No, I can't either. I think right now, if I'm voting on this, I'm probably in the disapprove piece of
Yeah.
the pie. Like, he needs to be better than he is. He needs to stay healthy. Like he's got to figure it out, or he's just not all that valuable to this team. Now, to Pitt City What's point here, says Hayes will be back to form next season. I think out of all the guys out there who you're hoping can bounce back, not that I'm necessarily super confident in any of them, but I think Hayes is the one where I'm still betting on this dude. I'm still betting on the makeup. I'm still betting on the athleticism. I've kind of been saying that for years. I feel like he's too good to fail long term. The health is the issue right now. If he can stay healthy, I think he can turn things around. Without that health, though, it's going to be tough.
I'm with you. He has the highest floor simply because of defense. We've talked about that time and time again. Why the contract? Settle down, guys. It doesn't matter. This contract is so cheap because even if he isn't a good hitter, he's still a 2-WAR type player just simply because of his defense. The defense is so good that he could be a bad hitter, still be positive. That way, if he can just at least be an average hitter, he could be a 4 or 5-WAR player. I mean, how many times we talk about that? So I'm with you. I'm just more worried now about this back than I've ever been. And that's just what worries me. Because the thing too is if the back's so bad it can't stay on the field, then also how much does that back start impacting his defense? We saw a decline this year. It wasn't a hard decline, but you saw a decline this year. Does that continue? Does the back now cause issues of preventing him from being on the field? And when he's on the field, he doesn't make those plays as routinely as he has. That way it impacts his floors you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, this makes sense. I don't approve of Brian Hayes, but I think he'll I do trust that Hayes will be more like Hayes next year than Bednar being like Bednar next year.
Yeah. Oh, now that I'm thinking about it, I might have more faith in Bednar just because the stuff's still all there. But it's close. It's close between the two. All right. Next up, Connor Joe. Connor Joe, slightly less approval than Brian Hayes, and this is a non-tender candidate. We've been talking about him kind of for a couple months now. 21% of people approve of Connor Joe, 61% disapprove, 18% are not sure. I think this pretty much tracks. I think Connor Joe he's fine, for who he is. I think he gets played, quite a bit too much, so I can understand not disapproving of him, maybe more so disapproving of his usage. But yeah, this was where am I going? 21% approve, 61% disapprove Connor Joe.
This one's kind of weird too, because I think Connor Joe gets more hate than he does deserve because he doesn't perform as well as he should deserve to be performing because of how much he has to play. Right. It's a lot of it is just you're not utilizing him to his strengths. This is going to be next year if Isaiah kiner-falefa stays and he plays and he starts at shortstop. This is our fear we talk about, right? Isaiah kiner-falefa, if you make him a full-time shortstop, you're going to make him at his weakest, and he's not going to be as good as a player as you expect. And like that's what happens to Connor Joe these past 2 years. Like he's not a full-time player, ends up having to be a full-time player. But what I'll say is, like the one thing that he's supposed to be good at, right, hitting lefties, he's going to do. Like he just stopped doing that this year, and he turned into a bad player. And so, like, it's if he gets DFA'd, well, I should say non-tendered, right? Like, I think he's deserving of that. I get it, but also it's partly like, but it's not really your fault. Like a team's going to pick you up, and you're gonna do well in your role somewhere else. So yeah, that's again like I'm kind of mixed. I guess I get it. I think he doesn't deserve the percentage of disapprovals that he gets, but I understand it.
Yeah, comments pretty much have it. It's just we give way too much playing time to people who shouldn't be getting that much playing time. Like plain and simple.
Right.
And Connor Joe is one of those guys, right? Like if Connor Joe was utilized in a way where 75% of his at bats were against left-handed pitchers, and that's how he was used, then you probably feel pretty good about Connor Joe. But because you got to play him more and more and more and more and more than he should, you know, he struggles. So that's kind of been his issue the past couple years. All right, moving on from Connor Joe. Next up, Brian De La Cruz, another topic for discussion that we've had multiple times over the last couple months. He's set to make around $4 million his season here in arbitration. But Brian De La Cruz, this is the lowest approval rating of any of the players that we pulled, and it's 10%. 10% approval rating. 75% of people disapprove of Brian De La Cruz, the highest by far among the players. 15% of people still not sure, but not the fan base does not seem very pleased with Brian De La Cruz. I think it's safe to say.
Should they?
No.
I mean, I'm honestly shocked that like it's as high as 10%. I feel like the approval should be 5% or lower, and they're not sure about 20. Because I can understand they're not sure. There's no way he's as bad as he was this year for the Pirates. But again, like this is where I guess our viewpoints differ from other people's out there, because we had this argument at the time of the trade. I know he's not as bad as he was this past 2 months, but like he's not that good as he is. And that's just like I don't approve of Brian De La Cruz as Brian De La Cruz. Like that's this part of the issue. You know, I don't think he's that good of a player to begin with. So, but I can see that I'm not sure, because you think like maybe you do feel like, hey, it's still 20 home runs. It plays, whatever your reasons of Brian De La Cruz being a good trade acquisition is. I get the not sure, but yeah, like the temper, like who are there's 500 people voting. Like who are the 50 people that were like, yeah, Brian De La Cruz, like this is it. Keep doing your thing, dog. This is good.
That's true. Like, who are these 10%? I don't know who these 10% are. Because it was just a pathetic display all around since coming over. Like, he couldn't hit, he couldn't field, he couldn't do anything right. 44 games played, negative 1.1 WAR. Like, that's impressive to rack up that much negative WAR in 44 games.
Which I believe, if since the trade deadline, I think he was the worst by WAR, if not the worst, the second worst.
I mean, he had to have been.
Right.
Like I can't
Again,
imagine
you're
anyone
the worst
playing
player
worse
in
than
baseball.
Yeah. So yeah, those I mean 10% is a pretty low approval rating here, but yeah,
It's also kind of high.
I don't know how 1 out of 10 people can approve of this. Like
Right.
I guess I see that. All right. That's it for the players. I did throw one other one in there for fun, and it was your tweets. Who approves of your tweets? Your tweets have a very similar composition to Brian Hayes. I think that's probably who it's most close to. 23% of people, DiNardo, approve of what you tweet. Right, about 1 out of 4. About half.
Brian De La Cruz.
About half, 49%, disapprove of your tweets. Somehow 28% of people, you've probably sent out what, 60,000 tweets?
Probably not.
How are you?
Probably way
Where
more.
are these 28% of people who aren't sure yet? Like, there's a
NS9 has
large enough sample size here.
116,000 posts, by the way.
There's a large enough sample size here. I don't know. I don't know where these people are. But I want to point this out too. So this is a 49% of people disapprove. You tried turning the tables on me and responded with Jim's baseball takes. And I would just like to say that right now, 53.6% of people approve of my baseball takes. Sorry about that.
I'm disappointed in this guy right here. Jack, where were you? There's no way you approved. We needed you on Twitter voting correctly. Jim got all of his burners out there. He's like to make sure that he didn't get owned. But no, I you know what? I get this and I understand. You said it's very similar to Cabrian. I get it. You know, carrying the load out here on Twitter, my back's hurting. My back's hurting. I got to do a better job. I get it. I understand. I'm gonna do some rehab, some therapy, strengthen my back. That way, I have a higher approval. Again, I look at it's better than Brian De La Cruz. And
You're right. You're right. Better than Brian De La
28%
Cruz.
not being sure. But like I said on Twitter, I put it this way, you know, had I not been so masterful of my tweets, never would have had Andrew McCutchen block me. That never would have existed.
That's true.
That's right. And then Andrew McCutchen never would have been as good as he was this year. So
You're
it's a
welcome.
gift and a curse. Yes, you're welcome.
All right.
That was fun though.
Yeah. I was just thinking of a topic. I was like, you know what? Let's put out some polls. Put out some polls of this is the important stuff, right? Like Brian De La Cruz and Connor Joe.
Yep. So in the spirit of Tyler, who'd you vote for?
I voted disapprove on your tweets.
I'm talking about for the president. But yeah, this is good. This is fun stuff. So really, this week starts all the real fun for the offseason.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, I think pretty much everybody hits free agency. Well, officially, like I know a lot of people were put on waivers on Thursday. And so like today's the day where I think stuff happens with all of those guys. Expect there to be some moves by the Pirates today. From seeing in from hearing in the grapevines. If you're an MVP member, you may already know what some of those are. So just to plug there for the Patreon. But we're not here to announce anything. But yeah, be on the lookout. There may be some very minor Pirates transactions coming in the next 24 hours or so.
Yep.
Very minor.
Yep. Which will be very major for them this offseason.
Yeah.
I joke, hopefully. But yeah. But hey, there's also been some stuff like around baseball and also, I mean, geez, the day after the World Series that morning, there was a trade with the Braves and the Angels. It's like, geez, I mean, give it a few hours.
Yeah, trades are happening. People have been signed. Waka signed a big deal, which I mean, coming off of the season he had is well deserved. Yeah, it's I'm hoping. I feel like last year there was Ohtani, right? And then it was like everybody was waiting on what Ohtani would do, and then like all the other chips started to fall. But it was like, all right, first who gets Ohtani? That's going to decide basically everything else. This year, I'm wondering if it's going to be a similar situation with Soto, or if we're going to see more action early. And if it is a similar situation with Soto, then hopefully Soto makes a decision pretty quick. Because I don't like just sitting around for a month with nothing happening.
Something tells me he won't.
Probably
deservingly
not.
so.
Yeah.
Like this is his last time hitting free agency, basically.
I think he's gonna have those. He's gonna have one of those deals. It's gonna be like a 14-year deal with an opt out every year.
Yeah, but still,
you know, it's gonna be I think it's gonna be. I'm interested in what that deal looks like because I could see it being like a really. it's either going to be just a boatload of cash that like you can lock him into, or I could see it being still a boatload of cash, but giving him an opportunity to re-up it, you know, it's at certain intervals if he so decides.
That's fair. Someone's going to give him a boatload of cash, and it will be a boatload of cash, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyways, but cool. So offseason is really starting to kick off. We'll be back, of course, with NS9 live this week, and then another Sicko sound off on Friday. And like you said, check out the Patreon, be an MVP member. Cool stuff for there. Some perks. We already did a giveaway yesterday. Outside of that, that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah. That's it. Go vote. By the way, if you voted in these polls, go vote.
That's right. You didn't earn that sticker for this.
Yeah. Get yourself a sticker. It only counts, though, if you take a selfie of yourself with the sticker and post it on social media. Otherwise it doesn't count.
In your car, of course.
Yeah.
The designated area. All right. Let's get out of here then. Appreciate you guys. As always, we'll be back later. Bye-bye.
See you guys. All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.